And just to put extreme rock into context for those of you who don't have a copy, so classic rock contains 83 routes between V-diff, diff, I know what grade it is, and VS. Oh, God, it's happening again. Hard rock contains 69 routes between VS and E4. Now, neither of those are an easy prospect to tick, except for the fact that extreme rock, I don't know what Ken and Bernard were smoking when they put it together, but it has 180 routes in, so more than double. And they range from E1 to a rather inconvenient E9. And it was kind of for this reason, it's considered impossible because it had in the Indian face, amongst many, many other really, really hard routes. And ticking those is really difficult, but as we'll find out today, speaking to Caff, ticking the others ain't easy because they're spread all the way across the country, from Scotland, far north, through to Land's End and far south. And they cover a range of differing styles, from slabs to walls to overhangs to choss to vegetation. It's a really compelling list of routes. So yeah, Caff did though, didn't he? Which is kind of why we're here today. So yeah, what's more remarkable arguably is its other achievements. So within this session, we'll go a bit into Caff's past, his origins when he was starting out, through to the legend that is sat opposite me now. So please, can we have another round of applause for James McHaffie? Caff, I know how uncomfortable you are being given praise, and if it's any consolation, I feel the same way. So we'll just agree to disagree and move on.
Cheers, Rob.
So, Caff, you're born just up the road in Keswick, North Lakes, and you are, the son of Lakeland climbing legend Ray McHaffie, who's, for anyone who's climbed up Borrowdale, anyone who's climbed in the lakes has probably climbed one of his routes because he did a bloody lot of them, didn't he? But how did, being born into that kind of dynasty, how did that initially shape your climbing?
Can you hear me? Thanks everyone for coming, by the way. I know the weather's dead good. I was impressed that there's anyone who's here other than my sister and mum, to be honest. So, Dad took us out when I was young, and I started crying, so I didn't actually climb for years after that, until I got into my mid-teens. Then he took us up Troutdale Pinnacle, but it was fantastic. Me and Dad, for the first year or two, when I started climbing, and he didn't have a car, so we used to bike everywhere, like down Borrowdale, down to Thirlmere, to Castle Rock, and to be fair, he taught me some pretty unsafe techniques. Now that I've been instructor myself, just like, anything went. It was quite old school. In fact, when I set off my first hard VS, Lakeland Cragsman, it was his route that he'd found. He'd been working on the other side of the valley, a really good hard VS, and he said, "Space your runners out," because we didn't have much gear, and that was kind of how we rolled quite often. But yeah, he was great. He'd mastered the art of circular breathing. When you went out with him, he'd be telling you stories all day. Literally. He was pretty epic.
So who were your more immediate influences growing up as well? Did you have contemporaries, people around the same age as you that you went climbing with?
Wes and Hock. So Wes particularly, but Hockin, he won the BICCs in 1994, and he could do 2 little finger one-armers without warming up, and had immaculate technique. And literally, we thought he was going to be, the next Chris Sharma. Literally, just somebody is so amazing, and he was stratospheric. In terms of his ability at the time.
How did it pan out for him in the long run?
Well, no, he is a great climber. Hockin is a fantastic climber, but he did, after he had all this potential, he did spend about 10 years in the Queen's Back Bar and Starlights, like a local nightclub.
For those
that
of you
reduces your ability to climb ninth grade routes.
So top coaching, training tips here for anyone interested. So just to put your youthful performance into context, what sort of stuff were you climbing around that sort of era then, with likes of Adam Hockin and Wes Hunter?
Like I say, Hockin would generally take the lead when we were starting out, and because it was totally awesome. And then, but with Wes, we just went out and did epics and all sorts of stuff, But saying that, the first extreme rock route that I get set off on, so I was climbing about hard VS at the time, and Hockin and Adam Wild. So we'd done the first pitch, and they told me it went straight up. And they were there giggling, and I got about 20 foot up to this thread, managed to clip it or grab it, and clipped in low, and they'd sent me up Trilogy, which is E5. And that was, it was a funny kind of humour that we had. It was just quite dark humour. This is you know,
A typical Lakeland sense of humour.
Yeah, sometimes people say I sandbag, but my neck, you know, maybe within a grade sometimes on something safe.
I mean, so the start of Trilogy, which is up at, you know, up in Langdale, you know, is a really classic E5, but, you know, the really, really hard and the most dangerous bit of the route is the start. I can't even fathom you getting up that far.
Yeah, I don't really do.
So how did your journey then pan out? Because I guess like what I'm keen to get a hold of, Caff, is like, you know, you basically going from like youthful punter to elder waddage. What happened? How did it happen?
Yeah, well, I guess yeah, I'm not a very gifted climber. You know, I mean, I couldn't move too well. But then hockey.
Caff, everyone in this audience.
Well, no,
here,
yeah, no,
yeah,
just
no.
you know, but the comparison with Hocking was just immaculate technique and amazing genetic level for it. But yeah, he failed to meet me. He's failed to meet quite a lot of people when he was a kid. But he failed to meet me at Lower Falcon. I set off soloing up, spin up, and then funeral away. So kind of VS and hard VS. It felt quite natural at first, but then I started to get into it, and it is quite addictive, and it meant I could get a lot of mileage in. So yeah, that's how I progressed. You know, probably 80-90% of the climbing when I was younger was quite a traditional background, mainly alone, and then doing bits of trad climbing. So it meant your head got into a very good space for moving over that sort of moderate terrain quite quickly.
Having seen you climb as well, Caff, you know, like you do actually have quite a, you know, idiosyncratic style. It's very in control. One of the things with Caff is just his ability to like hold on and, you know, like bone out on little crimps and milk rests where you can. I remember seeing you on, now what was the name? Monster in a Box, I think it was, the E7 in Pembroke once. And one of the other sort of characteristic traits is you are a very apologetic leader as well. And you know, when, I've forgotten who was belaying you at the time, it might have been Dan McManus.
Yeah.
You know, when you're belaying someone on E7, you know, you just got their back, haven't you? But I remember you...
I get quite frustrated, you know, when you can't commit to something and you're going slow, and it does become frustrating, and I do feel sorry for the belayers when I'm climbing, so I do say sorry.
You just seem very, very considerate for someone who was obviously in the middle of a really all-intense life experience, basically. So, in general, where did you first come across, you know, the likes of classic rock, hard rock, and extreme rock?
Yeah,
I can name them now.
It would have been the 90s, but I was pretty illiterate, I would have said, you know, so I wasn't a big reader. But yeah, in the 90s, I would have come across the books. And yeah, in 1997, I did my first one, Bitter Oasis with Kev Avery, and it was amazing. I remember it being amazing weather, and it was just, you know, a lot of the routes in the book meant a ton to me at the time, and the weather was really good, and it was the pushiest lead I'd done at the time, Bitter Oasis, with a good friend, and I remember buzzing for a week after doing it. But then a few days later, I took one of the worst falls I'd taken. I fell off soloing at Recastle. I slipped off in the Executioner, and I bruised a strap muscle in my back. It was a big lesson around soloing that you shouldn't fall off. But
more top tips. You'll leave here with more of them. And I guess so you've just said, I mean, they didn't actually have maybe the biggest impact on you to begin with, but, you know, so what point did the sort of roots within sort of, I mean, I guess in extreme rock in particular, you know, like, was Bitter Oasis a bit of a turning point?
Yeah, again, because I only vaguely knew about the book, certainly didn't have a copy, and maybe I'd glanced a copy of a friend. But yeah, around that, 1997, I did Bitter Oasis, and after that, a lot more of the routes within extreme rock I started to do. And in 99, we did a mega trip to Wales with Colin Down and doing stuff like Lord of the Flies. And
that's where the waddage started.
Yeah, and the year before I'd done Right Wall, and particularly the Cromlech. It's kind of like an open book corner in the Clanberis Pass. It's just very picturesque, and they've got a lot of history. You know, the routes in there have a lot of history about them. See that Right Wall at Pete Livesey, Dad was telling me stories about how he'd revolutionised climbing by starting training and climbing, and some of his routes are remarkable. And same with Big Ron and stuff like Lord of the Flies. You know, at the time, these routes just meant so much. And same as for most people who do them, the routes will mean a lot. And the first ascensionist and the whole history about the routes.
I think with the thing about the Cromlech, isn't it, as well, is it's like, you know, it's like almost intelligent design of a crag. I'm not advocating intelligent design here now, but, you know, you've got the corner, the 3-star classic E1, left wall, 3-star classic E2. It's just every single one and every single different grade too.
Yeah, I guess it's where the 3 books come together.
Yeah.
Quite well, you know, there's just a ton of routes in each book that are just totally awesome.
So you've just mentioned, obviously, you started climbing in the Lake District, you moved out to further afield to places like Snowdonia. At what point did you then branch to, I guess, north of the border or down to other areas, like either South Wales or the Southwest?
Oh, God, yeah, that's a tricky one.
Tricky question.
Yeah, I mean, Scotland, I'd not been too much. In fact, Nick Wharton, he's got a book out recently, and he talks about the first trip I did to Scotland with him, Burks and Woody, where we did the risk business, which incidentally is in there also. But yeah, when I moved to Wales, it was one of the best moves I've ever made. I mean, North Wales is just, one of the best places in the world for climbing and brilliant culture and history. Yeah.
Is it better than the Lake District?
Well, all right, yeah, it's tough. I love the Lake.
No comment.
No, I'm not going to comment on that. But did some trips down to Pembroke. But yeah, to be fair, some of the routes in Pembroke are some of the worst, for what could be in Pembroke, because it's the best sea cliff climbing in the world. The routes in the book aren't fantastic.
Again, I mean, that probably touches on a point, actually. See, I love extreme rock. I'm one of its biggest fans. I must have, read it hundreds, possibly even thousands of times. But the sort of elephant in the room is that, it was written quite some time ago. And when it was written, some of these areas, like Pembroke in particular, were really in their infancy. And so the routes, actually, that are in for Pembroke, they're a pretty mixed bag. And there's a lot better routes in Pembroke now. So I guess you could say that certain elements of the book now, looking through a modern set of eyes, are a little flawed in some ways.
Yeah, it's a book for the 80s, though. And they were still coming on the back. Like, there's quite a few traverses in it, like Alcatraz. Whereas not many people like traversing nowadays.
Hands up those who've done it's Alcazan, isn't it? Yeah.
Alcazan.
It's all right, I've got everything else wrong. Hands up anyone who's done that at the finest crag within the whole of the Peak District, Stony Middleton. It says a lot, actually, that in Stony there's something like 5 separate routes. I can see a good few hands going up in the audience there. And I think in the modern way, much though I love Stony Middleton, again, for all its polished, loose peculiarities, I'm not entirely sure that the modern generation of indoor-bred tradwads are maybe going to be going to Stony before they go to Huntsman's Leap or something like that.
If you like this video of James McHaffie, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as checking out the Kendal Mountain Player, where we have over 400 different films and collections to choose from, as well as featuring our top nights of bike night and snow night from previous years as well. Additionally, on our YouTube channel, we're also doing a featured trailer every single week on a Friday, where we'll be featuring either a brand new addition to the player or amazing content that we already have on there. Make sure to check it out in the link in the description below.